And hello and welcome. My name is Martin, and today what we're going to be doing is working on the game area that we need for the portfolio that we're going to be creating. So again, to kind of recap the idea here, we're going to have a foyer area, which is going to have your name and the name of your portfolio, and then it's going to have like a little arrow that's going to point into the next area or help the whoever it is that's playing your game move into the next area. In the next area, you're going to have like a visitor center. That visitor center should be personalized to your own style. So you're going to build the idea of that area is to work with geometries and to learn different things that we can do with them. So then that way we can create interior spaces, exterior spaces. Well, interior spaces really, and the way that they would look like from the outside, so like a building. We'll learn how to use both the additive and the subtractive forms of the geometry, so that way we can punch holes in things and be able to like create doorways and windows and holes in ceilings, so that you can get to a second floor if you were going to build a second floor. So those sorts of things. So first off, the area that we have here is very small. It's doesn't have enough of the area, because eventually what's going to happen is from that visitor center, you're going to be able to move into the next lesson, which would be, on whatever it may be. So it might be the enemies. I think it's characters and pawns, so it will be the enemies, things that will be attacking you. So at this point, let's go ahead and set up enough space to be able to do this. Just a quick note, one of the things that I do like to do is right now I have the world outliner and the details panel right next to each other, or just underneath each other. So when I do this to see more of this area, it's you forget that that's down there and you have to keep dragging it back and forth. Now, one of the things, if you're willing to let go of a little bit of screen space, that you can do is you can actually grab the top of the folder, the tab, and if you grab it, it's now a free floating folder. And if I was to go into the side of something, you see, like right now, if I do this, they're going to be right next to each other, right? So you see how it changed from the shape that it was. If I put them there, this one will be above. If I grab it and then move it over here to the side, they'll be next to each other, right? And I sort of like this a little bit better. It gives me slightly less screen area to work with, sometimes depending on whether I have enough stuff on the screen and I'm not bringing any more stuff in. Or I can copy and paste to make extra versions of what I need. At that point, I do reduce this or make it, you can close the tab. And if you need to, I believe you can go back to Windows and which one was it? There we go. So go into that and then we're back, right? So Windows, it was mode editors and then modes panel, and I brought that panel back. Okay. So you can move stuff around, and you might not always have all of these open all the time. The details panel, yes, and the world outline, depending on whether you're adding stuff, yes. Okay, so let's go ahead and take care of making this a little bit bigger. And while we're doing this, we're also going to be watching our work over here on the side and making sure that we don't have hundreds of things that we don't know what they're going to be, because eventually as you build your level out, this thing is going to get really full of stuff depending on how detailed you make your level and what sorts of things go into it. So you can lose track of things really quickly here. So we are going to learn how to right click and create folders and keep things together. Okay, so right now everything that I don't like the walls that are present, because right now these walls are static meshes, and if I was to put a skin on these walls, right, so if I was to go into the starter menu and go into materials and let's say grab the clay bricks, it's a really big clay brick. So right now I feel like I'm the size of an ant, and the easier thing to do for right now is to just hit delete, and I'm going to actually go ahead and delete each one of these walls. And so at this point we should have nothing in the arena box except for the big wall, which I believe is this one, and then the other one is right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into the geometries, and we will need to pull that out now. So let's grab a box, and I'm going to put it on top of the smaller box, so then that way at least it's closer to where I need it. Now I can again use the tools that we learned how to use in the last tutorial to move this just underneath where the floor would be. And at this point, let's make this thing, and what I'm doing is by selecting it, I have it selected, and I know that it's selected because I see the yellow outline on the box. And from there, once it's selected in the details panel, I can rename it. So let's go ahead and call this main floor, and I'm not leaving any spaces or using any special characters, so remember to just kind of keep it easy that way. So it is going to be underneath, we're not going to use the transform tools. What we are going to use is the brush settings, and this will allow for more of these smaller boxes that, oh, sorry, let's do this. Anyways, we can't see it right now, but I'll pull something in later that will show you actually the boxes. Or let's just do this. Let's do clear. The reason why we would like to use a geometry is because when we stretch the object, it actually creates more of these boxes, and it doesn't actually stretch the material. So if I was to put now, let's say that clay, and let's move that this way, you'll see that the scaling does a pretty good job of keeping it pretty even, and we don't have that really close-up view that we had before. Okay, so let's put this back to 1. Remember that anytime you make a change, you can always go back and hit those little yellow buttons to flatten them out. So now that we have that, let's say roughly where we want it, which is just underneath the floor, let's make this 10,000 tab by, and I hit the tab key on my keyboard to move down to the next level. So 10,000 tab, and let's make 200 is actually fairly decent. We'll leave it at 200, so we've got something that if we need to dig something out. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to see if the floor is, you can see I'm actually using the shadows to try to guess whether how close I am. I can also zoom in, and with the floor still selected, remember that in details I still have main floor selected. I'm going to use the location, the Z, because the Z is going to move it up or down. And we can see that as I move in this direction, I'm getting closer to the bottom of the box, and the shadow is getting closer to where I need it to be. So let's move it. So let's see. Okay, so I see it floating now, and if I need to, I can just type numbers in. So let's go 65. Let's hit the backspace key, 66. Let's hit the backspace key, 67, 68, 69. It looks like it's going to be 70. So at 70, I'm no longer seeing too much of a shadow underneath that. And I feel pretty confident that that floor is now roughly where the other floor was. Okay, so now that we have the floor there, one of the things that can happen at this point is that your character can fall off the edge. So if I hit play, and this might actually take a while, so let's just do what we need to do, which is let's grab your character. So this object right here is the start point for your character. We'll see it over here if we select it. There it is. It's called first person character. So let's grab this person and let's move them over to one of the corners. It honestly doesn't matter which one. So let me move it this way, and let's move this back this way. Okay, so let's zoom down and back out. Okay. All right, so if I was to push play now, you can see that I'm at the edge, and this is when the person starts the level, that's actually where their character will start. And one of the things about this is that I can fall off the edge, and that obviously then kills me, and then I would have to hit restart or whatever the next thing that would happen would happen. So let's go, let's hit escape to get out. Then we would have to hit this, and let's hit play again, so then that way we launch back up, and I'm going to hit escape, so then that way I'm just, that's the easiest way to get back up on the board. So if you were to happen to fall off, hit escape to get out of play. Once you're out of the play mode, push play again, so then that way you end up at your start point, and then escape, so then that way you're back there as the editor. Okay, so what we need to do now is to make 4 walls. And what I'm going to do again is I'm going to use the geometry. So again, underneath geometries, I'm going to grab a box. I'm going to put it on there, on the floor. I'm going to hit N to make sure that it's actually on the floor. Now I know that the x-axis is going in this direction and the y-axis is going this way, so I'm going to go to the y-axis and I'm going to make this 10,000 because I know exactly how long the box is. Obviously, I'm going to now have to move this to get it into the right location. And at 200, my character can still kind of jump over this. Let's see if I've got this close enough that I can... No, I can't, but if I had too many things close by, I might be able to jump on something and then jump on something else and get over. So if you want to make sure that your character can't really jump over that location, let's click on that again. And let's go down to the z-axis. That's about 200, and let's make this about 500. Okay, now some of that did go to the bottom side, so let's go ahead and pull this all the way up, and then we're going to hit the N key on your keyboard, and that will put it back on the floor. And let's take a look at this. So let's hit play, and that's a pretty good sized wall. I don't think, even if I had a few things that to stand on, let's say it looks kind of like a, like a behind a building or something, right? If there was a bench or a dumpster or something, I still don't think my character would be able to jump over that. So 500 is good enough. At this point, what we want to do is go ahead and line up these two objects. So what I'm going to do is roughly get it close to where I need, about right there. So I grab the y-axis, and now I'm going to grab the x-axis, and I'm going to get it pretty close. Now I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to see that I'm, just a little bit off. And if I need to, at this point, I can also slow down my camera. So your camera speed is going to be up here in the top right-hand corner. When you're doing delicate work, go ahead and slow that down just a little bit, so then that way you can actually zoom in with a little bit more detail. So I'm going to select the object, and and I know that what I want to do is I want to move its location. So at this point, I'm not doing anything with the world outliner. So let's move it. I think this is along the y-axis. So if I move it that way, you see it's going in the wrong direction. So what I'm doing is I have clicked over here on those two, like what looks like the little black arrows there. And if I move one direction, it moves me in one direction. If I click and drag to the right, it's moving me in the opposite direction. I guess I'm opposite of what the tool is. So let's do that, and let's zoom in pretty close. Let's move a little bit more, and if I need to, I can type in the number 2. So okay, that's pretty much on the mark. Now from there, I can kind of see the tool back there in the background, so I'm going to again get this pretty close to where I need it to. And let's see how good oh, wow. That's pretty good. Again, if I needed to, I could, come in here and type the number in. So it would be -5620, and that would get me right where I need to be. All right, so now that I've got that corner lined up, knowing that this is 10,000, I should be even on the back side. So I'm going to speed up my camera, and I'm going to zoom down there to the end. And then I can slow down my camera. And let's see how close we got. This should be like right on the money, because, yep. Okay, looks pretty good. So I'm going to zoom back out on my camera. So I'm going to click on camera. Let's go back to, let's say, 5. All right, so now that I have one wall, I essentially have all 4 walls that I need. What I can do now is a couple of things. I can hit Control-C, Control-V, and let's do that one more time so that you can see what actually happened here in the world outliner. So I'm going to click on the wall. I'm going to hit Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste, and it made another one called the same thing, number 2. So what we should do is let's go ahead and name this. So we can do that by edit, rename. Also, the F2 key will be the rename, so that's an easy way to do it. So you can go there, and let's call this outside wall, and let's we don't have to call it number 1. The next one will be automatically called number 2. Now, also notice that I didn't leave any spaces. I didn't use any special characters. And sort of to follow what they're doing up here, the first word is capitalized. Everything else is lowercase. First letter is capitalized. Everything else is lowercase. And then the numbers would come in after that. If we look here, same kind of thing, right? Top letter, top letter, top letter, first letter, first letter, first letter, sky, light. So just to kind of keep everything looking the same, that's sort of what I like to do. So now this is the outside wall. All right, so once I have one, I can hit Control-C, Control-V, and the next one I don't have to name. Why? Because it took the name already of the one that it was there. So now I can just click and drag that one out. And this axis should already be ready. So the y-axis, because all I'm doing is dragging it along the x-axis, should already be correct. So all I have to do is zoom in and see how close I got on the x-axis. And that looks pretty good. Let's slow down the camera. And let's see if we're right on the money. And I feel pretty good about that. Okay, so I'm going to speed the camera back up and zoom back out. Now, because this is because we made the floor area 10,000 by 10,000, obviously this wall will also work against the here, but what we need to do is make another copy of it and then rotate it. So using the last one, I'm going to, again, with it selected, I'm going to Control-C, Control-V. I get outside wall 3, and with outside wall 3 selected, I'm going to hit the space bar, which will then turn me into the rotation tool. And then I'm going to click and drag this to the left, which gives me a 90-degree turn. Click on the space bar, and then I'm going to move this down to the end. Now I will need to both check the X and the Y axis on this. So let's zoom in. Oops. Let's see. Let's slow the camera down a little bit because I'm going a little too fast. Okay, so with the object selected, I'm going to go into location underneath transform. I know I want to move the X axis. So there it is. I'm going to zoom in to see how close I am, just a little bit off. Okay. There we go. That's pretty good there. Now let's get it on this side. All right. So having that side, I should theoretically have the other side because it is a square, but let's speed up the camera and go check the other side. And I feel pretty good about that. Okay, now that I have this one, obviously what I can do is copy and paste. So Control-C, Control-V, grab the next one, and all I got to do now is set up the y-axis and make sure that it's in the right place. Okay, again, with the object selected, I'm going to go to the location. I know that this is the y-axis, and I'm going to move that back slowly. Okay, feel pretty good. And being that all the other ones checked out, I'm pretty sure that the corner over there is fine. All right, so now we have, and this is actually a really good place to save. So let's go ahead and get in the habit of doing that. Every time you do something and you finish a certain task, go ahead and do a file save. So remember that for us, there are 3 places that we want to save. Underneath File, there is Files, Save All. So let's click that one. Then we're going to come up here as one of the icons. This is going to save the level or the map that you're working on. I know that's a new term, but this is inside the software. This is considered your map. And then from there, we're going to save any content that we have created. So at this point, we haven't made a map. We haven't modified anything and saved it. So all we have to do is let's click Save All. We're not going to see any assets saved because we haven't created anything yet. All right, so now that we have everything saved and we have our basic area working, in the next tutorial, what we'll do is we'll create the first area and we'll start working with creating the house or the greeting area that you're going to have for people that are going to be looking at your portfolio. Okay, so see you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.